API key. Okay, now this key, how do we get it? We simply go over to our Bright Data settings, we go into our account settings, and we simply go to our API tokens over here. Right now, once you've done this, there'll be a way to, you'll be able to go ahead and actually generate a token here. I've actually gone ahead and done it. So I've actually already done it. So I've already got my token here. But if you refresh your token after that, you basically will get a string, right? So I've already got my string. So in this case, I'm going to grab it over here. So at this point, all I wanted you to do was I could revoke this token and just do it again. So I could, I mean, to be honest, I could do that. Let's just delete this token. Okay, I don't want to do this right now. Okay, but you have to get that 2FA and stuff. But once you basically set up your token, you'll get a little string, okay? No, you can't do it here as well. Okay, that's fine. So at this point, I want you to go in here and just, I'm going to paste it. So I'm going to paste my key and then I'm going to close the screen. So I'm pasting the key. Right, so it's like a long digit with dashes between it. I'm now hitting save, and then I'm going ahead and I'm closing my environment file. Okay, and then I'm closing the index.ts file. So there we go. Okay, now afterwards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually get my environment file variable name. I'm going to go back to my code. I'm going to say process.env bright data API key. Cool. So now we've got the API data key inside of our code. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and thank you, Jay. Jay sent me the two-factor code. I don't actually need it now, but we're going to say const res equals await fetch. Okay. And then I need to make a call to the data set that comes back. So first things first, I'm going to use backticks because I want to do string interpolation. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the following call. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to this. api.brightdata.com/DCA dataset with the parameter ID being passed in. Okay. Now, once that's done, we actually need to pass in things like the method and so forth. So the method here would be a get request. By default, it is a get request, but I just want to specify it. And then we have to pass in a authorization bearer key. Okay, so Charity says, man, you have a natural talent to breaking down complex concepts and making them accessible to everyone. I've learned so much from this channel. Keep it up. You're amazing. Doing amazing work. You're a great true gem. Thank you so much. That's actually a really lovely message, man. We're almost at 600 likes. Keep the likes flying in and keep that energy. I really do appreciate you all, right? And this is where I will naturally tend to see a drop off because this is where it gets pretty tricky. I'm not going to lie, right? But we're going to get through it. Don't worry about it, right? So in this case, we've got the headers here and we've got the authorization and the bearer token, okay? So you need to make sure you have that, otherwise it just won't work. Okay. Now, once that's done, we can get the information by saying const data equals await res.json. Right. Then what we need to do is essentially we need to check something. Now, the reason why this is important is we need to go ahead and see if the data is in a built state. Now, when we scrape data using Bright Data, it's not a straightforward 2-second process, right? Remember, it has to spin up IPs and proxies. It has to then go and scrape the data, which means that sometimes even when the job's finished, it could just be kind of consolidating the information. It might not be ready for us when we go ahead and try and get the information. So we're going to create a recursive call here, which basically in some sense will retry it every few seconds, right? So in this case, it's just going to keep retrying the function until the data is ready. Okay, so here I'm going to say if the data.status is either building or still collecting information, right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, you're not complete yet. So I'm going to fetch again in 5 seconds, right? So trying again, but in this case, we're not doing 5 seconds. You can do a little timeout there if you want. I'm just going to say not complete yet, try again. Right. And this actually does do the trick a lot of the time, right? So in this case now, it's going to go ahead and fetch results. So what this does is it will go down, then it will go ahead and actually call itself again. And then it will keep repeating this until, and I found on the second one, it always gets it. Okay, so this is going to help us out. And then here, what I'm going to do, just for now, I'm going to cast any here because you should have a return type. But for this demo, I'm not going to get involved in that, right? And then what you can actually do is set debug points, right? So what I was doing when I was debugging this is I was saying debug 1, and then I was saying debug 2 to double check when I get past this, right? So that's how I'd recommend if you get stuck at that point, just make sure you go ahead and set debug points, watch the logs and see what happens, right? Then we're going to return the data afterwards. Right, so that would be the call to get the results back. Okay, so after that point, we should have the results from the finished scraping. At that point, what I want to do is update the database, right? So I'm going to do await admin.db collection searches doc and then set. And then what I want to do is over here, I'm going to set the status to complete, the updated at with the timestamp, and then I'm going to pass the results in like so. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it in like so, okay? And this will pass in the results and so forth. And then remember, again, because we're using the set function, I do need to do merge true, which means it's not going to override everything. It's still going to keep everything that's kind of in there, and then it's done, right? And then what I would really recommend is just add a console log here saying, we made it, or, you know, like the finished scraping. I wrote full circle in mine. I literally wrote this on mine just so I could see when I got to the end, right? But you can feel free to do whatever you want to do, okay? And then after that, you can say, you know, like, it really doesn't matter here what we're doing, because the main thing that's really going on here is here we could just say, okay, like finished, or we could say scraping, function finished, right? Whatever, really doesn't really matter here. Okay, get rid of that. So at this point, the whole function, the whole purpose of this is going to act as what we need it to do for. What have I got? A little error here. Let's see. What is my pretty freaking out about? My bearer API token. Okay, it's done. Yeah, we're good. Right. So at this point now we have our function ready to use. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my terminal. And now I'm going to restart my function over here. So see load environment variables, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to stop that. I'm going to restart my server. Okay. So now I technically have the backend kind of ready, right? I technically have the backend ready. So at this point, oh, we've got a little error because I have a full stop instead of a, oh, you know, see, it's always the small things. It's always the tiny things that catch us. There we go. npm run serve. Oh, Zoni actually caught it out. He goes, you use point instead of comma after the fetch. Is that a problem? Yes. Oh, he goes, that is a problem. Yeah. So you found it, dude. Found it before I did it. Let's go ahead and cancel that out. So it's actually going to spin up the server in a second, starting emulators. There we go. And then we should see it being deployed. Again, it's on 5001 and it's still being forwarded on that same URL. So we don't have to update it, right? So this is good for the development purposes. So now, this is pretty good, guys, right? This is exactly what I wanted. So now what we can do is we can go over to our front end again. So this is good. We can kind of forget about this for a bit. We can go over to our Next.js app. Okay, so now we're back on the Next.js front. Okay, so back over at this on this side. I know it can be a little bit confusing, but we're going to get there, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our app. Localhost 3000. Here we are. Now what I want to do is when I type in something here and hit enter, I need to execute a Bright Data API call, right? And this is going to be where the magic happens. So let's create that functionality in the header. So what I firstly want to do is go over to our header.tsx, which I'm already in, right? And then I want to do the API call to activate the scraper. And I need to simply pass through the search input, okay? So I need to create a call for this. So I'm going to say const. This is going to be an asynchronous function as well. So I'm going to do async here. And here I'll say const, and I'll say response equals await fetch. And this will be a / activate scraper call, right? You can do / API, but in this case, I'm using the new approach, which is just to activate scraper. So we're going to say / activate scraper. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop in the following. And this is going to be a post function. And I'm going to pass in the headers, which are going to basically say that we are passing in application JSON, because we're going to sort of JSONify the data, right? And then we're going to pass in the body of this, which is going to be JSON.stringify. And then what I want to do is I'm going to pass the key of search, and I'm just simply going to pass through the value of input. Okay. So this will make a request to the activate scraper endpoint inside of our Next.js app. All right. Now at this point, we need to actually create that function. Right, so over here in activate scraper, this is going to be where we receive the post request. Okay, we don't actually need that now. Cool. Let's check this out. So Luke Skywalker's in the house. What's up? Good to see you. So at this point, we're almost at 600 likes. Let's go. Right. So now what I want to do is I need to set up my scraper on this side. So what we are going to say is we're going to say const. What I like to do as well is I just have little console logs which tell me what's happening, right? So this actually helps me out quite a lot. So we're going to say submitting, and then here I'm going to say the search is the search. So I actually want to check firstly that I'm getting the search that I want, right? So at this point we can actually just test this right now. To be honest with you, we can do Command J. I can sort of pull this over to see my server, and if I type in hello world and I hit enter, we can see search is undefined. Right, so I'm not actually getting my search, which is incorrect, right? So that's not actually what I wanted. To be honest with you, I think the reason why is because we're not using the correct. This is going to be tricky now because we're using the new APIs that I haven't even practiced. I kind of ran with this right now, so we're just going to figure it out. It's fine. So we're going to go to root segment request response. I need the request. There we are. And then inside of the request object, we have the request.body. Okay, so it is request. Right, let's just double check this. So it's going to be request.body. And I'm going to go ahead and get this out of there. Now it's freaking out because does not exist on readable stream. Oh, I need to await it. My bad. Oh, I see. Equals await. And this one will be, does not exist. No. Okay. This is super annoying. Request body read only stream of the body contents. Let's do const search equals request body. Request.body is a readable stream. How are we passing this though? I mean, I haven't. To be honest with you, I haven't looked at this properly yet. I've actually just done it with the old route of doing things. I kind of want to see if we can just check this out the way I want it to do it. So request.body. I'll tell you what, let's just see what it says, to be honest with you. Let's say submit request.body, yeah. And then let's have a look here. So submitting request.body, and let's look over here for ourselves. So you guys are seeing a live debugging session as I'm figuring out. MacBook Pro, bam. Cool. So we've got a readable stream. First readable stream. Okay, so to be honest with you, I don't know. This is where I wanted to figure out. So I'm gonna have a quick little check here. We haven't got any. I mean, I've got the music pretty low right now. So I'm gonna have a quick little dive into it. So right now I'm just looking at Next.js examples of post requests, and I'm just talking you through it as I do it. Okay, so. Working this very soon. Okay, so what I might actually do then, guys, is do it the traditional way, and then when I figure it out, I'll make another tutorial on it. Okay, because right now I don't spend too much time on this to kind of figure out that side of things. So that's fine. We're gonna refactor it. We're gonna get it done. But I wanted to show you how we kind of do that in the first place, and then obviously once I figure that out, we can go ahead and go back and do it. I should have really kind of tweak that bit beforehand, but it's fine, right? But this is how you actually go ahead and get that request. Okay, so right now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and change my header to simply be towards API /activate scraper, and then I'm going to go into, so we're not going to use this route, we're going to simply use the traditional route. So I'm going to go ahead and create a activate scraper.ts file. And here what I do is I simply copy my hello example, and I can modify this example right here. Okay, so this example, what I'm going to do is the next API response will include data or an error, and then the data is going to include a collection ID or a start ETA. So a collection ID or a start ETA, and then we're also going to have a type error, which is going to be like so. Okay. And then the JSON that we end up returning, for now, we're going to figure that one out in a second, right? So let's create this function. So this is actually now sitting at the / API / activate scraper function. Okay. So I will figure that out. I really do. I will figure that out. I'll make a tutorial for it and get that forward. I just want you to see that it's not always, it's not always super smooth. It's the natural reality, and that's completely fine. All right. So we're going to say const here at this point. We're going to say const search. Const search equals request.body. Oops, what the hell? Request.body.search. And we just passing. Oh, we're about to pass 600 likes. Let's go, guys. Let's push it past. Push it past. I'm gonna do this rec body. There we go. And so we're gonna pull the search out. And then what I can actually do is I can just simply debug this and check. I can say the search is blah, right? And then here, just to kind of get rid of this little error right now, I can just grab that for a second, make that whatever, just so it satisfies. Let's go to our application over here. And what I would highly recommend you do at this point is pull up your terminal, type in something like MacBook Pro, and then you see, we should see, okay, I'm still requesting from the, I need to save. That's the old URL. So let's go ahead and do it now. MacBook Pro. And we see searches at MacBook Pro. Okay, so that's the way that we traditionally did it, which is fine for now. We can do that. And then obviously you can refactor this demo tutorial afterwards as you wish. Okay, so the search is there. Then what we're going to do is make a request. So now I'm going to start speeding up so that way we can get this done. We're going to say async function, we're going to say const response equals await fetch. So await fetch, and we're like one like away from 600, and I'm gonna get the music back up. I need the energy, I need the drive, right? So who's gonna break that 600? I'm gonna have a quick little water break as well. Oh my god, it's sitting up 599. Carson says oh, there we go. They're at 601. That's what I'm talking about. Nice. I was waiting for it. I was like, oh man, we're so close. Right, this is cool. Right, now we got the fetch. Right, let's go ahead and get this down. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a fetch to the correct call. So at this point, to get the correct endpoint that you need to call, what I would recommend you do is go over to your scrapers. So the scraper that we just went ahead and created was this one right here. Go ahead and type in initiate by API, and over here. So this is what you want to do. You see here, right there, that QNext one, you want to go ahead and copy that URL. Okay, so I need you to go ahead and copy that. Then here we're going to do backticks, and then just like that, that's the trigger for me. Okay, then what you want to do is pass in the following. So you need to say it's a post method, and you want to pass in some headers as well as the content type being application JSON. The headers in this case is going to be the Bright Data API key. Now we haven't set the API key here. So in this case, remember we set it for the previous one, but we did not set it for this one. So in this case, what I'm going to do is set the API key. So go into this, create a file called .env.local, bam, pop it in. And I've actually got my key already from previously. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop in my key right now. So I popped in my key and I'm now closing my environment file. Okay. At that point, you should see that it loads the environment file from your environment local. Okay, so there's no need to reload the file. We now have our environment file, our variable being passed in as a bearer token, which is great. And then we're going to stringify the search into the body. Right, so in this case, we're going to stringify the search into the body, just like so. Okay. Now, once we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and close off my search. There we go. So I always get a bit mixed up here. There we are. So now we've got the response, right? So in this case, we are making a request. So what we're essentially doing is triggering it as if we were triggering it here, but we're passing in the search term from our front side, okay? Now what I want to do is after that comes back, I will capture the data by doing response.json. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and say response.json. We'll log out the data, and then we should get two pieces of information from the data. This is the collection ID and the start ETA, right? Once we've done that, I now need to go ahead and create a, from the admin SDK, as this is still the backend for our Next.js application, I now need to create an admin instance. So what we need to do here is I need to go to the top level for my Next.js app here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Firebase admin.ts file. Okay. Now for the Firebase admin file, what I want you to do is you can do this two ways. You can either pass in your service account key, which is one way, or you can actually go ahead and pass in your or set this in your environment variable. It's completely up to you how you want to go ahead and go forward with that, right? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pop in the following at the top, and we need to install Firebase admin into this project, because remember we did it previously on the other project, which was the back end of this build. So I'm going to go ahead and install that into the app, Firebase admin, just like so. Okay, energy overload, that's what I'm talking about. Amazing stuff, right? So in this case, we are installing the Firebase admin API. Then what I want you to do is remember that same file that we went ahead and downloaded. So there's two ways you can do it. You can either do it this way, or you can actually, there's a trick I did in the last build, which you can actually use, but I'm not going to go over that fully right now. Okay. What you can do is you can get the account key. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in that service account key right here. So I'm going to grab this and pop it in like here. I'm going to rename this file, and this is the one that I got from Firebase. So rename it to service account key.json. Go ahead, close that, uncomment it out. Okay. Remember, because this is on the server, it's actually pretty safe to do that, right? Then we're going to have the same example of how we initialize the app as we did previously on the back end, and then that will allow us to have an admin SDK instance, right? So in this case, now I can access the database in the form of an admin from the backend, right? So in this case, oh, there you go. Always do that. Anyway, we've got this down. So what I want you to do now is to basically go ahead and import the admin. So admin DB from the top like so, and we're going to say await admin.db collection, and we're going to go into the searches collection. Okay, and then we're also going to go into the document here. So here what I'm going to say is the collection ID, which gets returned. So basically what's happening is when I trigger the build, it will give me back the collection, the collector ID, right? So in this case, we'll actually have a record, right? I'm simply going to return the collection ID and the start ETA. This is getting pretty pumped out. I think we're going to get 700 likes. This is crazy, right? So we're going to say collection ID, start ETA. Cool, right? I know this is a trickier build, but don't worry, it's fine. This is levels, right? You can go ahead and progress your levels. This video is going to always be here for you to go ahead and experience webhooks, experience web scraping, all that good stuff, right? So at this point now, we've got that down. We're going to go ahead and hit save, right? So I do want to surround this entire block in a try catch as well. So where I am doing the top right here, I want to do a try statement, and if at any point any of this fails, so I'm going to wrap the entire thing in that. I'm going to say catch the error, and just basically give me a nice little error message as well. So in that case, I will do something along the lines of this. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and assume this is any. I'm not going to get too far into this, but yeah, we're going to log out the error if anything happened. Okay, it's handy for debugging, all that kind of stuff. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and test it out, right? So let's try it out, guys. We're going to go into, and I'm going to show you how you can debug and check this yourself. So what I want you to do, have your local host open. Then I want you to have your Firebase instance open as well. Okay, so I want you to have your Firebase, because a few things are going to happen right now. So have your Firebase instance open, kind of make it a bit smaller so you can see, like, you know, your collection here. Then I need you to go to your Bright Data here, pull this open as well. And in Bright Data, I want you to go to your web scraper. I want you to click this and click on statistics. And here you can see where your runs are occurring. Right, so now think about what's going to happen. I'm going to run you through all of this as well. Do not stress, right? So we're going to go into our app. And what I'm going to do right now, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and initialize a build, which means that what we should see here is that this will go ahead and start another build the minute I call this. So if I go ahead and type in MacBook Pro, hit enter, right? So what we should see now is, look, oh, it's doing it. We have this ID. Let's see if it got added into our database. So hit a little refresh. We should have a searches collection. Hey, there we go. And there it is, FN, amazing stuff. Nice. And as you can see, it's in a pending state, right? This is how we're eventually going to reach a point like this, where it's pending, right? So at this point, we have the pending state. This thing is scraping the information. So this is great. This is really good, right? And if I go into my actual build and see the terminal logs, you can see, look, the data is collection ID, start ETA. So this is what's happening, right? So this is really good. This is what we want to see. And what will happen is eventually this will scrape the pages and it will return the records. Now, what we can even do is actually wait on the back end and see if something happens over on this side, right? So over on the back end, if we look at the server running, once this finishes, this will effectively ping our webhook, and then it will go ahead and execute the code, which should then change this to go ahead and become the results that were populated from here. Okay, so as you can see, it's fulfilling the pages, so it's begun the scraping process. This is it's fulfilling the scrape. So if you go ahead and check on it, it's 50%